All right. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the AI Chef's Kitchen. Good to see you, Chef Kevin. How you doing?
Yeah, no, it's well, I'll say it's nice and warm and cozy here in the AI Chef's kitchen, Chef David. Um, Outside when I was walking the dogs at 6 a.m., it was so I'm just outside Toronto. It was minus 26 Celsius. That's minus 14 Fahrenheit. That's a little bit chilly. I imagine it's warmer here in the AI Chef's kitchen. I imagine it's warmer where you are, Chef David.
Yeah, I'm in South Florida. I'm about a couple thousand miles south of you, so
Yes, there you
uh
go.
yeah, I almost put on a sweatshirt to walk around outside yesterday, but decided I didn't need it. It was overkill.
Yes, yes. I feel that if you experience the minus 26, you would just like instantly freeze up. So anyway,
I
but
I
it's good.
have family in Minnesota, and Minnesota is Canada. Minnesota,
There you go.
Minnesota, like
They
you know,
want to be increasingly. So there
Yeah,
you go.
politically, yeah, but weather-wise, Minnesota's Canada. I've experienced Minnesota winters is the coldest I've ever been. Crazy,
Well, there you
crazy.
go. Well, but it is warm here. It's always good to be here. So maybe let's jump into the first kind of news story. I figured, Chef David, it's still relatively early in this year of 2026. So I picked this story. I always have to figure out which way. So this is from this IMD. This is actually an executive MBA program at our kind of university. It's based out of Switzerland, although I think they also have a campus in Singapore or whatever. But anyway,
Very fancy.
this, yeah. So, but this was some trends that leaders needed to know to stay competitive. I thought that they're interesting. So of course, I used AI to summarize the whole article. It was relatively long. And then I pulled out, there was about 10 different predictions. I pulled out the ones that I thought were most interesting. So here's the predictions. I thought that and this really has, I think, an impact on the labor market broadly. So their prediction was AI native departments will emerge so if you're in HR, procurement, customer operations, and they're suggesting that autonomous, these are agentic AI, is going to handle 40 to 60% of your daily
Wow.
activity. Now, that, of course, that's good news, but that also means you might need half the existing staff, right? So, um, I don't know. Thoughts on that? Like that's
I mean, it's not surprising if AI is getting good at doing those kinds of things. We're gonna have it do those kinds of things, and it is getting there. So no surprise. I mean, we can go on the bigger, philosophical discussion of whether it's good or bad, or whether people should just have guaranteed basic income, or what are we going to do about it all. But that's I think that's going to be a recurring discussion for a lot of these trends. Uh,
Yeah, what I would say is I think this is going to happen. I don't know it's going to happen in 2026 because I think there's still a trust issue, like handing over half your work, to this autonomous systems. I think you'd obviously have to have a high degree of trust. I think we're going to build there, but I don't know. So maybe not 2026. This is interesting. And once again, I will lean out of the way. So I also think this may not be a 2026 thing, but we're headed there. So they're suggesting that many organizations, I don't know how many, but many, you're going to actually have more AI agents employed than you do human staff members. Once again, I think that this is what Microsoft talks about as the frontier firm. Maybe we're headed that way. I don't know. Chef David, how many AI agents do you have working for you?
yeah, I mean, it depends how you define AI agent. It's we have shifting definitions of that.
Right.
If it means how many Copilot accounts we're paying for. That's one
I
definition.
think it means autonomous, like automatic, they're kind of working, not like AI assistants where you prompt them, but kind of things that are sitting around doing stuff, answering your emails or
I mean, there's a lot of them out there already, and One of the things that's interesting is I'm finding that a lot of the success isn't companies that are just using the out of the box stuff. We're just using Claude, period. It's companies, and it turns out to be software development companies because they have
Right.
software developers on staff, and the CEO says, make Claude do this now. And they
Right.
wind up agentifying, if that's a word, a Claude. And they have a
Sure.
custom Claude. They have a Claude that does what they want, they have their own agentic Claude, and they're finding amazing success with that. They're doing things that, it's doing great work for them. But I find that our wonderful AI providers who've been promising us agents out of the box, I'm not seeing that yet. I don't feel like I'm loving my Gemini.
Yeah.
Gemini has won me over completely. I am a big fan now. It is not an agent. It's an LLM still.
Yeah, it's more of an assistant where you ask it to do something, it does it, and then yeah. So and I think that in general, people are having more success when they look at, you mentioned CEOs asking for AI agents to do things. When they look at they break the problem down into very small things. So you say, hey, here's this agent that any emails that come in that ask about this is going to be, it's not responding to all my emails because that's going to be really complicated. But if there's certain types of emails, I'm going to create this very specific agent that asks, the response to this type of thing, right? So anyway, I thought that that's interesting prediction. We will eventually need to manage both our digital employees and our human employees, and I think that that's interesting to think about. Um, but of course, as part of this is where it gets a little less, positive for the humans, right? Because as the agents come in, if you're in middle management, think about what you're going to do. I don't know, move up or down. I mean, become a plumber or become the CEO because 10 to 20% reduction. And we're already seeing that. I think LinkedIn has talked about both junior positions and middle management positions, less job postings for those, certainly through 2025, and I imagine that'll continue. So middle
No,
management's a tough place. Middle of anything is a tough place to be.
always. There is no middle anymore. You either make it or you don't, right? But I saw an interesting discussion. I think it was somewhere on. It might have been the chat, the subreddit for ChatGPT or something like that. And they were, asking it. And it's always asking the ChatGPT questions,
Right.
asking AI questions. They were asking AI, about this kind of thing. What is AI going to be good at quickly and going to replace quickly, and what roles? And it was always talking about these kind of roles. And someone asked, could could AI be a good CEO? What about that? What about can ChatGPT, could you make a CEO agent that would be a better CEO than someone who's making $50 million a year to be the CEO of a bank? I was like, yeah, we would be a great CEO. Of course, we could easily replace the CEOs. It would be easier to replace the CEO than some of the middle positions. But you know something? That doesn't show up in articles like this. No one wants to talk about that. But yeah, the discussion, it's not about what is AI good at and what is AI best at replacing. It's about which jobs are the most vulnerable. Um, so yeah, sorry. And
Yeah,
I feel
there
like
you
a middle
go.
person myself, so I feel that.
Yeah, there. Well, yeah. Well, we'll have to raise the AI chefs to the top, and then we'll be safe. And we just don't want to stay in the middle. So, and the last prediction that they had, this is kind of different, but I think that this is important more on this security side. Just saying, hey, all this synthetic media, whether it's voice, whether it's video, that's going to force some major governance problems, right? Because a voicemail from your CEO may not be from her asking you to transfer funds, even a video, or, you know, people, I don't know, calling into customer service and wanting refunds, or, all of these could be kind of, spoofed, or maybe your receipt is spoofed, or I don't know, but synthetic media and knowing what's real is definitely from a security and kind of governance perspective. And I know you're going to talk a little bit about some governance stuff as well. So anyway, those are some
Yeah.
predictions.
But
It's
when
still early in 2026, so
quick
we
thought
can
on that
see.
last one.
Yeah,
Companies better be ready for rapid response because AI is so realistic. What Reddit always says is we're cooked. They've post something. They used to post something and say, "Is this AI or not?" They actually think there's an AI or not subreddit, and you say, "Yeah, I
Okay,
could tell. I could tell by the way it's blurry. I could tell by the way her finger looks a little weird on her, you know." And now it's like AI or not, and people are like, "We're cooked. We're cooked. I can't tell."
right.
So an AI video can come out tomorrow of the CEO of Burger King opening up a McDonald's Big Mac and going, "Oh, this is the best burger I've ever had in my life." Burger King better be ready to rapid respond and say, "That's AI. That's AI. That's not fair. That's not
Right,
us."
right.
You
That's a
know,
good, yeah, that's a great example.
right? I mean, it's going to happen. It's like already happening. You know, it's
Well, it is happening. People are, and that whatever, people are reposting things that are, patently not true, but they think it's, and then you get it from a credible source. Like if I get something from you, I don't filter it as much as if it just like I read, because I said, oh, well, David sent it to me. It must be true. And yet, maybe you got fooled, right? And
yeah.
then we unintentionally fool others, right? So yeah, rapid response, I think that's a great example that you gave. So there was my first interesting story. As always, we'll put the link to this so because there was more predictions. These were the ones I found most interesting.
And okay, so let's move on to the next story. Where's my button? There you go. This I thought was interesting. IBM has an agent, Agentic AI, and what it's focused on is governance and compliance.
Right.
And it's just okay. The story is just it's a great story, but the way it hit me at first, I felt like you know those comic books where all of a sudden you're in a different alternate universe. I'm like, all of a sudden I'm in an alternate universe where IBM Watson is a relevant AI. We have not talked about. We've done how many shows? We've never, I don't think, talked about or barely ever talked about Watson, and it's doing something really cool, and it's doing something that AI is really bad at, supposedly doing well. This is, I feel like I'm, in Bizarro universe, but what it's doing is really important because governance compliance. I did used to be an attorney and used to be able to hire an attorney, and your company says, "Am I following the law or not?" And you try to, yeah, you're following these laws. You need to fix this, and but it's gotten really hard, especially with data and the internet and websites. I I know when that European law came out, though I forgot an acronym, starts with a G. A few years ago, everybody was doing audits of their websites. I had a friend at a company who did those audits, and she's like, "David, no one's website is even close to being compliant. 20% compliant, 15% compliant. No one's compliant." She said, "David, your website." I'm like, "I know. What do I do? I gotta redo half the pages and add all this stuff." And I was able to get it, but it's getting harder and harder and harder.
Right.
So this is the kind of thing where we need AI. But and I'm sorry, I'm rambling here. I'm sorry, that was a bit of a ramble. I'll try to wrap it up. But the flip side of, oh my God, this is super important. Oh my God, this is perfect for AI because AI can digest all those laws. This is something AI is terrible at. AI makes stuff up. AI lies to me over and over and over again. And I say, no, 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 don't make stuff up. Only go by what's written down. And it still makes stuff up. I do not trust AI ever, ever. And this is all about trust. And if you read the article, it's saying it's built on basically trust. And so, you know, good. Thank you, IBM Watson. This is something we need. You're going to need to convince me because I'm terrified by the idea of trusting AI with my compliance. Thoughts?
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to take kind of the other side. So first off, I just want to point out that these two people in this picture are the happiest governance and compliance focused people. Most people dread governance and compliance. Man, they're having a great time. So I don't know. Maybe this is so. Here's
Um,
the thing. When you read the article, one of the things that they emphasize is traceability. So that's, this is part of the problem why we don't trust, the large language models. Even, and we've talked a lot about looking at the show the thinking. That is a little bit the traceability. You see what it's doing. And even sometimes in the thinking, it's going, I don't have this, so I'm going to make it up. So they're emphasizing traceability. So this would be like, with a legal precedent, like citing actual sources. And so this is really part of the secret sauce, is having that traceability so you can go back and say exactly how it made the decision. It's kind of the flow chart. The thing that I took away from this is the advantage of AI. They talked about consistency in decision making and also the speed at which decisions are made.
Mm.
And if you look at what's happening, especially in the US, you've got lower courts, they decide, then it's appealed, they decide a different thing, then it's appealed to a higher thing, then it goes to the Supreme Court. These are all the people that are looking at the same laws, and the political ideology is factoring into there. So I think if, eventually, and Noah Yuval Harari argues that we might want an AI CEO, we may want AI judges because they'll make consistent
Hmm.
decisions. And you also see it with the CDC and the FDA. They're not based on science anymore. So maybe we want some AI being that consistently makes the decisions and shows us exactly what their thought process was. Because let's face it, humans are not doing a bang up job interpreting the laws or science now. So this is that's the optimistic take. What do you think, Chef David? Did I
No,
convince you?
yeah, I'm with you on that. And we used to call I think the term still applies agency capture. And that's when the head of the EPA is the former CEO of the biggest polluter that ever existed.
Right.
And it's like, oh well, that's an exaggeration. No, that's exactly how it happens with agency after agency after agency after the agency capture. So then it becomes, yeah, we need true. There's some things we really need to be truly independent, and people are always going to be people. And, we're
Right.
never independent.
So maybe we choose to hand over because we as humans believe that that's better overall. But
But there'll
that's a
be
big
big arguments over
philosophical.
whose AI we trust because I've seen Grok say some things that I think are not very accurate
But once again, I
sometimes.
think the traceability, right? So it's like, because if you could trace that back, you would say, wait a second, that's not accurate, right? So okay.
If
So
it
then,
could,
oops, here we go. This is less philosophical. I thought that this was really interesting. So this company called Fable Media, it is launching this idea that they're going to, it's like they want to compare themselves to AlphaFold. AlphaFold uses science to figure out how proteins were folded. These
uh,
guys are saying storytelling is this human thing. It's been around for thousands of years. They want to use science to understand what makes elements of a story capture our interest, what causes emotional response. So they want to use science with AI to figure out kind of the basic, the basic building blocks of a good story. And then they have this idea that they'll use AI to create something they call quantum storytelling. But effectively, it means that AI could just make the story go on forever, and it could keep the continuity so that it all makes sense, right? So whatever happened in, kind of 5 episodes ago, you don't go, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense, right? And you could basically participate interactively in the story from every character's perspective. What I see this means is your favorite show on, let's say, Netflix, you could binge it forever because it would never end,
literally,
right?
literally,
That would be kind of be bad, because at least with most shows, there's a finite limit. But anyway, I thought that this was kind of fun. The two people behind it, like this Mark Sagar, like he's won 2 Academy Awards for science and technology. He created the animation process to animate the facial expressions in Avatar, and also with King Kong. So I mean, and then the other gentleman is a big animation person, CEO in India. So, this they have some chops in terms of the people behind this. And I think it's kind of a a fun thing. I don't know. What do you think? Would you like to be able to binge your favorite
Uh,
show forever, Chef Dave?
this is something I've actually thought a lot about, and to see that that's actually happening, and like legitimate people are actually working on it is I oh, I have mixed feelings about it. It's a
They're calling
hold
you
on.
right now
They
to
call me,
tell
yeah.
you.
God, I'm under attack. The AI's out to get me. It's a little scary, but it's a little, I don't know how to think about it. I think about, okay, the great stories of my life. Tolkien gave us the Lord of the Rings world,
Yeah.
and George Lucas gave us the Star Wars world, and sometimes a person has two worlds in them, but usually it's someone has the Harry Potter world, right? And Sopranos. I've been watching a lot of Sopranos lately, and a great example is a Game of Thrones. Right? They
Mm.
ran out of script. It was the most amazing show ever, and then that last season they ran out of script, and the story was bad, and everyone hated it. And if they had AI, they instead of saying they was struggle to get one more episode or two more episodes, write 1,000 more episodes. Write 10,000 episodes.
Right,
Write ten
right.
thousand episodes where different things happen in different ways. Sopranos, I love it so much. I've seen every episode. Give me 1,000 more episodes of Sopranos, and here's the thing: it wouldn't have to be one a week. It could be like, yeah, here you go. Here's 1,000 episodes. Here's 10,000 episodes. Here's
Yeah,
100,000 episodes.
as much as you wanted to watch, right?
As much as you want to
And
watch instantly with James Gandolfini. That I can't tell. Like we were saying before, we're cooked, right?
right.
That I can't tell the difference. Rest in peace. Bring him back, and I have a virtual him acting out the scenes as only he could. Um, it's a little weird. It's a little scary.
Well, and I think that, and then when you think about it, it's not just like 1,000 slop episodes. If indeed this company Fable, if they were able to decode effectively,
Oh, they could be
the
amazing.
science, right? Because then they'd be able to say, oh, this is what makes it, the hero's journey. Like there's a bunch of standard storytelling things that seem to engage us as humans. So if they could decode that, then they would be solid, good episodes, not, as you say, not the we're writing more episodes and we run out of ideas, right? So anyway, I think that this is a lot less than governance and compliance and changes in the labor force. Maybe this will fill in for all those middle managers that no longer have jobs. They'll sit at home and be able to use this to just binge watch shows. So
Yeah,
there you yeah.
I feel like it's an old person thing to say, but I love the Lord of the Rings movies so much, and the idea that if instead of having Peter Jackson do the magic that he did, if someone had just said, "Hey, I just read the Lord of the Rings book. It would be cool to make that into a movie. AI, make it a movie." And it was done in a second instead of knowing that they went out to like where were they, like
Right.
New Zealand, and they climbed the
Yeah.
mountains and they filmed it out there, and they lived there for a while, and the whole thing it shouldn't make a difference if the movie's just as good at the end of the day, but it does to me.
But I think we'll
I still
appreciate,
want to see a live band.
right.
I
I think
like
we
AI
talked
music,
about
but I still
this.
want to see a
Yeah.
live band.
I think we'll appreciate both. We will like
It's
the
hard.
instantaneous or whatever, but we'll also appreciate live theater, live music, with the made by humans. So I think we'll see that bifurcation. But anyway, this was interesting. We'll have to continue to. I think this was just officially announced on January 16th at some media thing. So it's very, very new, and we'll see how this progresses if it does.
All right, on to our next story.
Yeah.
Um, Google announces personal intelligence feature in Gemini. This website has a bunch of like everything keeps popping up at me, so I'm just gonna go
Yes.
to here, and um, so I'm confused because isn't this like the fifth or sixth time that they've told me they're giving me this? I thought the idea is that Gemini isn't going to be just a really smart, wonderful LLM as it's turning out to be, but it will know me and it'll say, David, you're back. Do you want to continue working on the idea you had for the show you do with Kevin? And it keeps not doing that. And there are some like there was someone told me if I type at Gmail and then ask it a question, it would look at my Gmail. Um, but now it's saying it's really going to do that. It's going to look at all my Gmails. It's going to look at my YouTube. For me, that's a big deal. If it really knows what
Yeah.
I'm doing on YouTube, and and not the stupid stuff I watch on YouTube, not the Judge Judy episodes. But you know what I'm posting on YouTube
Right.
and what's actually happening in my Gmail, and it could say, hey, you know, David, you should be doing more of this or less of that. Ooh, that's what I've been waiting for. So I feel like I don't want to get too excited because I feel like I've been let down. But what was your take?
Yeah, I like you was a little confused. So I went and I had a little bit of time earlier this morning and I experimented. So this is specifically for the personal accounts. So I have like Gemini Pro, which is a work account, and this doesn't apply to it. But my work account is already connected to my Gmail because I have Google Workspace or
I do
Workplace or whatever
too.
that.
So I
Right.
already have
So
this,
you
kind of.
already have this. I also then I changed to I also have a personal account because I wanted to see, but you need the personal account, you need the pro or ultra of the personal account, which I don't, I pay for the
Oh,
business account.
right, right.
But so that's what this is saying, and you're right around the they've created it kind of as agents, so you can say at Gmail, and that'll direct the prompt to use Gmail as a source. So um, I yeah, so a little less exciting,
Mm,
but overall, I think it's saying, context, as we've talked about, context is
yeah.
really important. So whether it's in your personal life, like play, and you mentioned YouTube. They also talked about photos, right? So it's like,
Oh,
hey, plan a trip. Here's my photos of my last trip. I really liked it. Plan another trip for me looking at my photos. I don't know what it would
that's
do, but
smart.
that's an example that they give.
I love it.
Um, so yeah, knowing more about you, both
Yeah.
scary and good and bad. But yeah, so I think that
I start a lot of my work with Gemini by saying, um, "Hi, I'm David Maldow of Let's Do Video for context. Does that help you?" And I'll say, "Yes, I know. Now I know who you are, David Maldow. You do this and this and that." And it gives me like a little mini bio to convince me that it's not BSing and really
oh, I
did
see.
look me up. And I'm like, "Okay, so you know who I am. I just made a new video about this and this, and I need you to help me write the description or whatever it is." But I don't want to have to do that every time. I'm having to, but and I advise doing that every time. It really helps. You get better results if you give it
Yeah,
context. So anytime Google teases me about, you know, because the ultimate context is my emails. Everything's in there. So much, especially if it could look back in the past at all my emails. Oh my goodness, it's gonna know everything about me. It's gonna be wonderful.
yeah.
Um, but
So
it
hey,
seems that their implementation here is a little bit Microsofty. I
I
gotta,
know, like those two
I
different. I
gotta,
know that's it makes me feel
right?
like Copilot Chat and the free co. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
got to
here,
ding Google. I'm a big fan of Google. I'm happy Gemini, but I bash Microsoft for this kind of stuff all the time. So I gotta let you have it. This feels Microsofty. The way you're implementing this, it's confusing. I'm still not sure I understand it, and it's not working the way I want it to work yet. So
yeah.
so,
There you go.
but
Hey,
keep trying.
do we have 1 minute for a Gemini?
Yeah.
Okay. Like I like you. Like I like Gemini. It works well. Preparing for this show, I had something that I'd never seen. I mentioned it just in case somebody else runs into it. I said, "Hey, I want some positive stories." That was that Fable one. I wanted some positive stories about AI that were just published this year, i.e., 2026. Um, and so I said, "Great." And I found Gemini went into a thinking loop that it was like on Star Trek. Does not compute. Doesn't it?
Oh,
It went for 15 minutes
wow, you got it
and
good.
the thinking. So it seemed to have trouble, like it was doing a search and it seemed to have trouble. It says, it was like identifying tools, doing a query, it's not working, trying again, reevaluating, trying one more last time. It literally said trying one last time like 20 times.
Wow,
And then I just left it.
you
It
broke
just
it.
kept going. 15 minutes, then it said, you have been logged off. I feel like that's the brain melted down.
That's awesome.
And, in Gemini, when you have your history, that thing,
The
not in my
conversation's
chat
gone.
history. It is like, it's just like, so, anyway, if anybody gets into that, it's like I don't know. That's the first time in all of this time, and you saw I was trying, and it was like reevaluating tool selection, and it was just they was really trying hard. But I think this is part of the hard, that it's trying to please you, so it's like it keeps trying. Like one last time, it's like give it another go. Come on, and anyway, so that was a new experience for me.
There's
But
a great viral example of this, and I don't have it ready, so Google it yourself because I saw it on Reddit, but I saw the screenshots and it was hilarious. It's the same kind of thing, and it was, and I haven't tested this, but I don't know if they fixed it yet. But it was they asked, I don't know if it was ChatGPT or Gemini, it might have been either of them. Um,
right.
is there a seahorse emoji? And I thought there was, but apparently there isn't. And I might be
Okay.
remembering it might not be a seahorse, but I think it's a seahorse. So it got in this loop where it said, yes, of course, there's a seahorse emoji. Here it is, and then it would show an emoji of a horse. So wait, that's not it. Let me get the real one for you. Wait, that's not it. And it just kept looping around saying,
Oh,
I know there's a seahorse emoji, and I keep showing you emojis that aren't seahorses. What's wrong? I'm losing my mind here. And it looped and it looped and it looped and it looped, and it kept getting more stressed out and upset and making all kinds of crazy emojis. And it's like, why? It was like, why is this happening to me? Why can't I print the seahorse emoji? And
that's
it
funny.
it was the same kind of thing that you described, but just it's funny to watch when it's harmless. Once we give it the control over the missiles, it won't be so funny, right?
No, no, exactly. So see, and that's a perfect way to circle back to one of those first predictions. Giving it 50% agentic. Like if you're doing half your work agentically, what happens if the agent gets into a loop? And what happens if it's, I don't know, processing easy customer returns? And it's like, okay, any return under $10 you can automate. But then it gets in a loop and all of a sudden it's draining your bank account because
Yep.
it just keep giving you. So I don't know. I think, it's that was the first experience, but I think, as Google Gemini improves, obviously, they can potentially introduce things like this never-ending loop. So, Chef
They're
David,
gonna fix this stuff. We're still in the early stages. This
it
stuff is
is.
gonna
It's
be
brand new.
they're gonna read about this in the history books and say, "Oh, when AI was new, it would get caught in loops." Ha ha ha! Could you imagine?
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly.
Nothing
So,
for us to worry about. All right. Any final thoughts?
no, that was a good collection. Thank you for your
Yeah.
stories. I
Fun chat
found
this
those
week.
interesting and always learn something. So it's great to talk through these with you.
All right. We'll see you all next week.